How's it going, everybody? Stephen here. Welcome back to Command Centre Wargaming. So in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at some modelling reference. So we've got this book here. It's called Diorama Project, and it's AFV, right, which would stand for Armoured Fighting Vehicle at War, okay? It's by Asion Press, okay? And the flag in the corner would indicate to me that it's a British magazine. Now, I picked this up at Hobbyco, and one of the things I am really big on is using reference for my modelling. And that means not only reference when it comes to camouflage schemes and things like that, but also reference when it comes to rust, damages, scraping, mud, all that kind of stuff. You know, soot, oil, you know, all the weathering effects, okay, that come with modelling. One of the best sort of era of model kits that I've basically drawn reference from is World War II. There seems to be a heck of a lot of examples in World War II. And it just so happens that, you know, from the Warhammer standpoint, World War II fits in really well, I find, with Imperial Guard Astra Militarum, also Scions, but weathering can be used in general, like no matter sort of like what army you're going for. Even if you've got sort of like Space Marines, you know, you can still weather up a Land Raider to a certain point, you know. I mean, they do clean their stuff up pretty well and maintain it, but I mean, if they're out on the field for a while, then they're out on the field, so it's kind of like, you know, there's going to be dust and grime and stuff like that on it, you know, and these are really good references to use. And if you actually have a look at the Astra Militarum paintwork, there are a lot of references in there to stuff like Messerschmitt camo patterns, also Russian sort of patterns, things like the Wyvern, and things like that are using sort of like either Soviet or sort of German World War II, or even like, you know, American or English sort of jolly green schemes, you know. I mean, a lot of the tanks are just plain green, and there's a lot of reference that comes from there as well. So it's I feel it's very important to have a look at this kind of stuff, and it's basically a video I've been wanting to do for a fair while. To be honest, I actually wanted to go through and do tutorials on YouTube in regards to this kind of stuff, or possibly live streams and things like that, because there are a lot of advanced techniques in here. These are techniques that I use, but you know, I think they're very, very valuable. I haven't really seen many of them done on the in the Warhammer community. I come from old school modelling sort of armour and tanks and things like that. But yeah, look, I would have liked to have done it on the channel. The video sort of painting tutorials and stuff don't really seem to do that well, so I don't think I'll put them up on here. It's a bit of a shame, but I thought I'd go through, you know, sort of general, just have a talk about some of the techniques that I use anyway. And I'm thinking maybe I might organise some sort of face-to-face workshops in Sydney, you know, see if anyone wants to attend those, and we'll sort of get stuck into those and things like that. And you know, one thing you'll notice is that in this book they're using paints, they're using MIG, and they're using Tamiya as well. Now, it's very interesting to note that that Tamiya has actually been around for a long time, and before Citadel sort of went, you know, hardcore on the paint brands and things like that, where they wanted everybody to be using Citadel and that, you know, Forge World actually in their modelling books, in their how-to modelling books, they actually have Tamiya listed there as recommended products, but that kind of changed eventually anyway, so that's basically it. So yeah, and obviously, you know, one of my other favourite brands, which is MIG. I'm just going to turn that light on and see if it makes it. Yeah, it doesn't help. So all good. So yeah, we'll have a little bit of a run through this book, and there are a few books like this that I have, but I haven't put it up here. One of them is for Soviet armor, which is the first one I bought this year, and some great references in that for battle damage and things. But unfortunately it's got some iconography in there, on quite extensive iconography on there. So I don't want to upload that onto YouTube because, you know, some woke princess will probably get upset. So what I'll do is I'll put that up on either Mines or an exterior channel or a plus channel or something like that. And, you know, I think that's the way we're going to sort of start to head with a lot of these videos as well, because I don't like censoring things, especially when they're going to be good references. So, you know, we don't want people getting triggered because it's a German tank. It's like, yeah, it's a German tank. They were very bad in World War II, you know, but at the same time, it's history. It happened, you know. So anyway, so let's just basically go through, and their stuff looked cool. I'm sorry, you know. So, but that's just it. So anyway, let's just go through and keep going with that. So, excuse me. In this book, we've got the book's divided up in assembly, painting, and then you've got like a Sherman example, another Sherman example, right? Then you've got a Perishing, a King Tiger, a Tiger 1, and a Renault. All right, so it's a really nice sort of really nice reference here of some of the more popular tanks of World War II, and they've done like a really good job of presenting those in here. Now, once again, this isn't a full book review. I'm not going to be reading every page. I'm just going to be having a look at things and just sort of having a bit of a chat about it and pointing some of the stuff up and out. And yeah, and just so everybody knows, this channel was always meant to be a channel encompassing not just Warhammer, but all miniature modeling and wargaming. And, you know, we've got like games like Flames of War and things like that, okay? And this would be perfect reference for that as well. So here we can see we have a nice weathered Tiger 2 in the corner. All right, you can see here you've got like a lot of mud here in the corner. It's a really nice reference for mud build up there. Might just sort of get that up there sort of in front of the camera so you can see that a bit better. Right, and then you've got trees there. It shows you like basically how the mud kind of looks. Is if you notice how it gets thicker as it approaches the edge of the tracks and sort of thinner inside. It's becomes sort of like more oily, more wet and more dried up on the outside. Then we've got like a nice little diorama there of like a Sherman. Very nice camouflage on that one, sort of driving through a destroyed pillbox or something like that. It's actually got some spikes on the front as well, and booby traps. Okay, so the book goes through and shows you how to do all that kind of stuff. Basically here you've got, you know, some more ideas of bricks and things. A lot of cracking here, right? So this is like proper cracking. All right, you can see that right there in the corner. Right, so there's actual proper weathering effects and everything. You know, not just like, you know, Martian iron earth and stuff. It's actually done properly here. Okay, so, and like I was saying, like, I guarantee you the kids over at Forge World, you know, they would have been studying this stuff to do their stuff. This is the real deal, and there's actually photos of some of the guys up the back here in the book. Here they actually go through them, and you see them. But we'll cross through that a little bit later. But yeah, so you know, another diorama there, positioning and stuff like that, which is really cool. Yeah. All right, and we talk about assembly. This goes, you know, through assembly a little bit, and you know, some simple stuff, but also, you know, dealing with metals. So, you know, a lot of these kits are actually certain parts of metal, especially the radio controlled ones. And then you've got pruning and spruing. This is something I do quite a bit. I do my own ceramite, and I actually go through and putty up the edges of armour. Now, not so much for Warhammer because, you know, the stuff gets used a fair bit in that, and not all of my stuff is showpiece quality. But I do have a King Tiger that I've been working on for a while, and I'd say that's showpiece quality. I spent a week on each track, so full time that is, and it's still not finished, but I'm hoping I could pick that up from my grandfather's at some stage and show you that on the channel. I'm thinking we could even do a live stream on that, and we can live stream it in while, you know, you guys, while I'm painting and doing that up, and maybe explain the process to you. That would be pretty cool. So yeah, you can see here we're using modeling putty to basically go through and add that kind of like cementy sort of texture. So that's one thing about the tanks. You know, the tanks were armoured. They weren't silky smooth plastic. You know, that's where a lot of people go wrong when they're doing up their units. Now, Space Marines and all that kind of stuff, you get away with it more, but, you know, when it comes to Imperial Guard and stuff, if you really want to do something hardcore, you know, they're not going to be factory fresh. They've always been weathered. And just some more assembly tips there as well, you know, sort of like drilling and stuff like that as well. Alright, so just some more assembly. I might skip most of this assembly part, but I'll just show you the photos anyway, because this isn't really an assembly, you know, flick through. But you can see here as well, so, you know, creating that sort of texture on the turret. Alright, surfacing. Alright, so adding all those little sort of bumps and stuff to the surface of the tank and that, and that's where I sort of go. And I know a lot of people like to think they're really hotshot modelers and painters and stuff, but you know, there are a lot of good painters in the Warhammer community, don't get me wrong, but you know, this is the level I sort of look at when I'm sort of deciding who's painting things well or not, you know, in my personal opinion. And it's certainly the level I'll go to and you know, sort of aspire to. Okay, but that's just me. So yeah, but I mean, this channel was never meant to be like a candy channel. There are enough candy channels, you know, feel good channels where everybody will tell you your work looks absolutely amazing to get a subscriber. This channel's not like that. This channel's a real deal. I'm very serious about, you know, the hobby, and that's how I improve in it. And you know, if I show people things, I want to show them properly. You know, if you want to feel good, have a Kit Kat, you know. So basically, or just walk into a Games Workshop store, they'll just tell you how good you are. So basically, yeah, so additional armor and using a knife. So you can see here, using a knife to actually sort of like create those welding marks in the armor, which is really cool. You know, strapping on additional armor using plastic card to like strap them on, which is pretty fantastic. And you know, like I say, maybe I could give you some ideas here. You know, if anyone's doing up any show pieces or anything like that, you can get some ideas for. This is a fantastic idea for armor. Basically, you know, going through, shaping some plastic parts or sticking them on extra armor. I reckon that would look pretty sick for a Baneblade, actually, going on there and putting on some extra armor, which is pretty fantastic. And you can see here how he's going to go through and add these booby traps, cutting up like a little bit of wire and then getting sort of like the leftover parts and sticking them together, and yeah, sticking them all up like that. So it's really cool. And moving on from there, so yeah, how to do sacks, how to model sacks with putty once again, looks like, and you know, how to sculpt the putty, you know, how to make your own sacks, you know, and then how to weather them as well, how to create like sheets, like tarpaulins and things, to wrap around objects, to wrap around items, body bags, you know, maybe, you know, fallen ponchos or whatever they're called. Yeah, really cool. So, and just move on to the next page for that one. It's quite a big book, everybody, so it's it might take a little while to get through this. But if you're into it, it's really good. So yeah, so here we go. Sort of more sort of metal effects, more charred metal effects. How to sort of like, you know, burn in, screw in the metal. How to create different effects with the metal. Over here you can see how to basically do some chipping, sanding, things like that, wearing, tearing, making it look realistic, but without actually going through and destroying the model. All right. And this is more for sort of like construction of turret rings and that, for the remote control ones as well. Sort of more blemishing here. Rubber tyre wheels, you know, stuffed up tyre wheels. You see how they're cutting them out and everything. Deteriorating seats, you know, how to basically carve and sculpt them out. Final touch-ups, final details, things like that. You know, so you can just think about it like, you know, Imperial Guard, you know, you get like a Baneblade, you think you can really go to town on it. A lot of people try to paint in. That's one of the things that I do, so that like I do a bit differently. A lot of people actually try to paint in battle damage, like they just get a sponge and they just start dabbing stuff onto the model and, you know, painting, chipping and stuff like that. But the reality is that chipping is not just a paint, it's actually creates like a peeling effect on the model. And I have a few techniques for doing that, but I'll actually go in there a lot of the time, and you can either dent the model, or what you could do is you can do like a layered sort of 3-pattern paint scheme. This is kind of like the way I'll be doing it for the Fire Raptor, because I don't know if I want to dent it too much, because it's just going to be a little bit of light, really tiny chipping. And the way that works is you basically go through and you get, you know, you sort of paint like a darker layer of metal and then another layer of metal on top, and then, you know, sort of rust in the middle and stuff like that. But yeah, so all good. So you got the Sherman as well. This is one of the Shermans. This is a custom kit. You can see, you know, they're going through customizing the kit. Again, we're only on assembly, and then there's like heaps of cool stuff. This is going through using some plastic board, carving in some wood, right? So adding like wooden panels to the side of the tank, which is really cool. Right, and you know, here we have some, you know, taking off some of the armour and things like that. Also a little bit of pre-shading as well. But this is mainly, you can just see here, you can just see the actual sort of, you know, sort of tinting on the plastic there. You know, the sculpting of the actual hull of the tank. And you can see you've got all this gritty stuff there going on. So yeah. Then we get to painting, and this is a really good reference photo. Here you can see here you've got like a lot of oil, which shows you, you know, a lot of the chipping, a lot of oil, sort of what it would look like. And it is an art, you know, you don't just go on and just splash it all on. There's actually a way, there's a, you know, there's a realism, you know, a way that that paint would look. And I see a lot of amateur painters sometimes, especially in those Facebook groups, posting stuff, and they think they're, you know, being the hotshot lads, and they've got like, you know, oh, check out my like lighting effect, and they've got like the shadow of the top on the top of the tank, and then the lighting on the bottom of the tank. And it brings me back to like one time, you know, I gave a critique on someone's Land Raider and that, and I just said, hey, look, by the way, like it's really good, but you know, is the sun coming from the bottom of the ground? And like they got so cut, they were like offended, and then, you know, and instead of actually learning, they'll turn around and they'll say like, every artist, what was the exact thing he said? Every artist has a different interpretation of what's going on in the world. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, but dude, unless you're on another planet, like an Eldar planet, where the sun is shining up from like beneath the soil, your interpretation doesn't make sense. You know, like, yes, there is an interpretation, but then there's just, you know, a stuff up and not knowing how to paint light. And, you know, whatever, I think, you know, yeah, so look, we'll leave that there, but just goes to show, it's just like, yeah, anyway. So basically, yeah, so we go through here doing some camo now, some oil, right, some oil splotches and things like that, and, you know, sort of basically, you know, just got some streaks there, how to do sort of more streaks there, how to do some mud build up and weathering in the corner, right. And this is a Sherman, was done by Frederick Aster. And this is like a diorama, and you know, you can see he's got a really, really lovely tone to his green. You know, and it ain't just goblin green or army painter green or whatever it is. It's, you can see here there's layers, there's build up of streaking, stuff like that as well. So it's all very, very important. I love this, it's like this guy just copping it. He's like, you know, blood on the ground. It's really cool. Priming. So there we go. I've done a tutorial of this on the channel. This is pre-shading, all right? Very important, especially for lighter colors. You can check out my tutorial for that on the channel. It's a pretty good one, actually. And it'll go through most of this and explain the logic behind all of this. And it's basically painting the ambient occlusion into your tanks and stuff like that, which is fantastic. Shows you decals, some things that you can use. This is a really cool paint set, by the way. It's a Vallejo Panzer Aces paint set. There's 2 of them. I got both of them. They're really fantastic. I recommend anyone who's doing Imperial Guard armies or any World War II or any military model in general, it's a must buy. Alright, I definitely recommend that. And then it shows you here sort of different brushes, how to sort of go through and to paint that up, and tools, how to paint tools on the top of the tank and stuff like that as well, which is really cool. And then we have some of the periscopes and lights. Now I have a little bit of a different method to this. I feel it's an improved method, but that's still a very valid way. And using UV filters and varnishes, sort of how to get that metallic effect and stuff, and you know, filters basically to cut certain spectrums out of your armor, out of the reflections to make it look more like steel. Alright, and here you can see there's like MIG scratching effects, MIG effects and filters. Alright, I spoke about those on the channel. I do use those as well, and that basically helps you, you know, get scratches and stuff like that as well. So it's really cool. And then you've got washes and streaks. So panel line Ascent Color by Tamiya. Alright, and also there's another one in the background there, and you can see that's how they sort of create those little streaks coming down. I'll just zoom in with my camera just a little bit so you can perhaps see that a little bit better. And you can see that's sort of like weathered. That's actually like, you know, dirt and rust from the rain that's come down, like from the actual tank that's been built up. Looks amazing, that stuff, in my opinion. Like on all my Imperial Guard tanks have it. And so basically over here, you know, he's got some more streaks and that kind of stuff as well, and it's really good. So yeah, and then mud. So how to do mud splashes, sort of like build-ups. There are sort of special MIG paints you get for it, which I've shown you guys on the channel before. Also, you know, light dusts and things like that. You can also get Tamiya mud sticks, which help you out a lot for that kind of stuff. Some of this masterful work right here, you know, is really good. If you could just see that sort of like mud build up there on the side, which is fantastic. And like I said, look, I'll have a look. I might do a tutorial on it, but you know, it's sort of, yeah, I mean, they don't seem to really pick up on this channel, so yeah, I might maybe organise that off YouTube, you know, start doing some of this. Tanks, basically rust tanks and stuff. Shows you what paint to use too, what paint they're using, Tamiya, which is really good, which is really fantastic. So, which is good. And then we have some mud on the wheels, on the undercarriages, wet mud, sort of mud washes. In here you can see like inside, and mud on the external parts of the wheels, oil and other stains as well, more oil stains. Okay, and then you've got metallic effects, so chippings and things like that. Alright. And there we go, and you can see like there's the final Sherman and how it sort of all comes out. And I must say I do quite like that Sherman. I think it's a lovely, lovely tank. Not my favourite tank of the in history, but just the way this guy has painted it. So it just looks really, really cool. Some actually really, really masterful controlled weathering effects and things like that on that. Really nice. So yeah, so hopefully you can see here like where the shadows built up as well, sort of in the corner, and which is really fantastic. So, and we got another Sherman, right? So this is the second diorama. All right, this is by Fernando Golanez. This is a 1945 late war Sherman. So the Germans would use zeramite, the Americans would put wood on the side of the tanks. This, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but this is basically, you know, to stop mines and things attaching to the tanks. And you can see here what he's done. He's undercoated it, then he's gone through, he's used his Panzer Aces model colours from Vallejo, gone through, painted the camo. Right, it looks like he's hand painted that camo, and then go through and, you know, sort of doing the wheels there, sticking that kind of stuff on. So there are other techniques of doing camos, like, you know, using glue tacks and things like that. Here you can see some of those bags, the sandbags that he's done before. Some of the other effects he's done using putty with the cases and stuff. Acrylic filters, paint splashes. Look, you know, they take a little practice to get going on, but once you can get them going on, they really, really look spectacular, you know, like those paint splashes. But you've got to be very, very careful, because you spend all this time, you know, especially with marine armour, with Imperial Guard, it doesn't really matter so much. But like with tanks like this, with with Imperial Guard stuff, it's sort of actually sorry, the wrong way around. With Imperial Guard stuff, it doesn't matter so much because stuff's going to be messy. But with Marine armor, it's very difficult because if you stuff it, you can stuff your whole paint job. All right, so yeah, that's what I meant to say. Apologies. So more filters. Okay, more dirt. You know, as I said, great reference here. Dirt between the wheels. Right, how to get that contrast going through, shadowing around the machine guns, or in our cases, heavy bolters. How to go through and create the custom camos and side panels and things like that, which are really fantastic. And once again, just continuing on with that. And you can see the way like he uses these sort of enamels and weathering effects to sort of go through and then blend them in. So you get sort of that contrast in the wood, makes it more realistic and less sort of modelly. Alright, and we've got some more MIG enamels there. Pigments. Pigments are fantastic. I'm a massive fan of pigments. Got a lot of pigments. Vallejo pigments, not MIG pigments. But they're still very awesome. And pigments are basically used to just sort of go through and add sort of like that sort of dry dirt effect to things. Rust as well. So you can see here the back of this Sherman. You know, you kind of got like these layers of staining around the armor, but then you've got sort of these dry powdery patches, and that's kind of like all the pigment sort of coming in. And the trick is that I find with pigment is you need to have multi-layers. You can't just have like, you know, one pigment of dust or something. You know, you really got to make like a bit of a pizza with it to get it going, which is fantastic. So here we go. The super perishing. This is by Jari Hamila, and he's looking pretty hardcore there in the corner. You know, he's not concerned about his too thin coats. He's making epic stuff. So yeah, you can see here, look at that lovely actual sort of realistic sort of. So that actually looks like real steel. Like, have a look at that. So actually, look at that detail. Look at that, you know, look at that texture, you know, like on there, you know. It's actually very similar to the Forge World pattern of painting. You've got sort of like two types of painting. There's the Citadel type, which is kind of like, you know, the flat one color, maybe a little bit of shading, and then you know, edge highlighting. The edge highlighting looks cool, but it's a little bit unrealistic. I mean, you know, and if you're painting with metallics and you're using the correct varnishes, you really don't need to edge highlight anything because it's sort of like already there. But two modeling styles. You'll notice Forge World stuff tends to go, you know, sort of more for a realistic look, more sort of like from the stuff in this book, and the Citadel paintwork, the edge highlighting, things like that. Because it's aimed more towards kids, you know, it sort of needs to pop. It's a little bit more cartoony, brighter colours, less weathering a lot of the time, stuff like that. So, yeah. And, yeah, so then you've got camouflage, and here's sort of the way I would do this kind of camouflage, and this is with glue tack. And he's going through doing that. You can also use stencils as well. So you can make your own stencils, or cut out my own stencils and do it, okay? Or you can buy them. If you go online, you've got like all different sort of camouflage schemes and stuff like that you might want to do. Burnished steel, rust, painting rust. All right, you can see here once again the pre-shading that's been done. More steel, underpainting and chipping, and these are like the watermarks, you know, sort of on the interior of the tank, like the little rust pockets, you know, inside, which would sort of occur. And yeah, and you can sort of see it coming together, and the mud on the bottom. All right, so just going all out. So you'd think, you know, like, oh, why would you need to put mud on the bottom? But, you know, full on. The tracks. Tracks are actually very important for tanks. A lot of people overlook them, but the reality is, like, on that kind of shape, the tracks really sort of like push out, really push out, like, very obviously. So it's one thing I actually spend a lot of time on is other tracks. Because tracks, you know, you can have a really good looking tank, but if you got tracks that look crap, then it's just not going to look good. And you can see here's lovely, amazing mud build up here in the corner. I'm just going to go through to zoom in on this for you, because it's absolutely fantastic. Check that out. That's some hot stuff right there. And over here as well, so you can see that dirt build up with the pigments and things. Right, and the grime there. Really, really cool. So yeah, and so here we go, some more weathering and stuff like that, and machine gun. So, which is really cool. And there's some pictures of the overall perishing. So pretty nice. Nice tank, the perishing. It's a nice one. Really, really nice mud on those wheels there as well. Fantastic. Okay, one of my favourite tanks of all time, King Tiger, done by Adam Wilder. Adam Wilder looking pretty serious, you know. So it's looking lovely. This King Tiger, he's really nailed it. This guy. So you know, it was very common for the King Tiger to have, because they were breaking down like so much. You know, a lot of their armor panels would either get blown off or they wouldn't even bother putting them back on again, because like, you know, they'd be breaking down. And so yeah, and even the foliage, like check out some of that foliage. This is all, you know, like modeled. This isn't photoshopped or whatever. So, you know, loving that rust up the back there. This is what I do with a lot of my tank treads, and getting that rust sort of like up there in those spare tank treads there, which is fantastic. And I'm going through. So yeah, here we go. Fantastic pre-shading. Going through as well. So armor tone, so toning the armor. Sort of like a little bit of a different method of pre-shading. Camouflage, so he's going through his hand painting it. He's doing it as well. He's doing all those little dots by hand, which is very good. A lot of control needed for that. So yeah, so now what he actually does, he actually draws the camouflage on first. So with a texture or pencil. Now this is actually a technique that I use as well. My father actually showed me this when I was a little kid. And I don't know if you can actually see that on the camera now, but he's actually in that top photo right there. He's actually got a pencil and he's drawing it on. So he draws over it first to make sure he's got the camouflage the way that he wants it, and then he'll paint over it after. So yeah, that's sort of like how you get it. I mean, that's some master stuff. Like that camouflage is like perfect. You see he's got the weathering there. Absolutely amazing job this on this King Tiger. And definitely one of the hardest camouflage, German camouflages to do, because it's really hard, because it's hard to sort of go through and use the glue tack on it. It's hard to use stencils, because like it's not really like, you know, it's very uneven. It's not in little chunks, it's in big chunks. And the only way to really go about it properly is to draw it on and trace over it. And painting camouflage is actually quite an art. You know, like the problem with camouflage is you can, you know, you got to sort of like even it out. You get to a point where you go through and you know, you put some of the camouflage sections too small, some of the camouflage sections too big, and then you go through and you know, and then it just doesn't look realistic, you know. So or you just find that some of the patterns are too big, you know, in total. And you see here he's painting some streaks there on the armour. He uses a palette similar to what I use. Let's see somewhere. Which is pretty cool. And so yeah, you've basically got some rust there like that as well. Really nice. There we go. So there's some pigment powders going on there in that photo. I'm just going to come in and down on that one. So you can see that, and you can see like this weathering effect and total control over the tank and stuff, which is really cool. And just going through again, having a look. And here you can see applying the mud. So there's a few ways to apply the mud. You can actually buy it. You can make it yourself out of different pigments and washes. You could put it on with a stick. You could airbrush it on. There's a few different techniques for mud. Once again, more mud, splashes, streaking, etc. Which is really cool. And the final Tiger, which looks absolutely amazing in my opinion. Absolutely love that tank. Wasn't the most, you know, technically efficient tank, but, you know, it's certainly a beautiful tank. And, you know, it's pretty crazy. A lot of the sort of newer tanks to this day were based off the Tiger and the King Tiger. So, yeah. Then we have my other favourite tank. I don't know which in the world. I don't know which is better, the Tiger or the King Tiger. This one is done up by Mr. Fabio Pensili, right, or Fabrizio, whatever his name is. And there's a little bit of a story there behind that, but look, I'm not really going to go through that right now. And he goes through, you know, a lot of the similar techniques, but what he does show you here, which is really interesting, I'll just bring this book around again, is basically he shows you his construction pattern. So he'll show you he works with like all the wheels assembled, then the chassis, then the turret, and then the tanks tracks separately. My apologies, everybody. Which is a little bit different to what I'll do. I'll actually put the wheels on. I know I shouldn't, but it's just sort of like, yeah, bad habit. Yeah, I really should do that, put the wheels on separately, because it does make them a little bit harder to paint, but I sort of get away with it by putting mud in there, and you kind of can't see it anyway. But like I said, if it was for a competition or whatever, I'd definitely do it. So you can see it there. Then we have some more sort of like charring and stuff. This is sort of like, you know, adding some of the white. Alright, so, you know, winter camouflage, you know, snow, whatever on the top. And a lot of oil burns and stuff like we saw on the front. And once again, he shows you what paint he's using for it, which is absolutely fantastic. Mig and Tamiya, and he gets into it, which is really good. There's tracks, his wheels and everything, and what I love about it and the way he goes through and he washes his wheels. So this is actually a really good way of doing some Imperial Guard armour. When it comes to wheels and things like that, you can actually wash them, and they look really, really cool when you wash them with a little bit of pigment. Forget about the null oils and stuff for this, guys. You actually want like mud there. And you can see some of the wheels as well. Alright, on that, and the tank treads and things, and yeah, just going through and doing that. So it's really good. And the side parts shows you how he does dried mud on the tracks. And, you know, the mud splashes on the back. This is very important, everybody, these mud splashes. So you can see here how masterful that's done. You get the scratching in the side there of the armour, which is really cool. Stains, oil stains. This would look fantastic on an Imperial Guard regiment, which would be good. And just some more close-ups of like the overall tank and how it's looking, and like it's just really nice, really sexy. You know, it's simpler than the other ones, but it still looks like absolutely awesome. And you can see here how that's just weathered, and that's sort of like, you know, the Vostron, you know, sort of destroyers or whatever you call them. And it's just, yeah, really good. Some more side views. So, yeah, really good book, this. I was actually surprised, very surprised. I wasn't actually expecting it to be this good. I thought it was just going to be like a couple of pictures and stuff. There used to be some Tamiya books called Tigers in Action and all this kind of stuff like that. And, you know, but they don't sell. I haven't been able to find those anymore, and you know, it's really good to see, like, you know, the craft. There are people sort of going out there and still releasing these books. That's why I thought I'd share it with you guys, because it's, you know, really, really sort of iconic and important as far as I'm concerned. And like I was saying before, when I'm modelling, like, yeah, you can just get pictures off the internet, you know, have your laptop sitting across from your desk or something. But the thing is, I actually like to have actual photos. I like to be able to move it around. And plus, you know, if you're airbrushing especially and you're getting particles everywhere, you don't want to go through and, you know, put, you know, friggin' oil all over your laptop, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, if you get some on this book, c'est la vie, you know, what can you do? It's a bummer. It's a $50 book, but you know, you rather do that than actually have it go down on your laptop. This is a Mr. Hobby, Mr. Surfacer. Not a fan of those paints. Haven't had a very good experience with them. But let me know in the comments down below if you've had, you know, better experiences. I sort of just happy with going through and doing MiG and Tamiya, and then for secondary stuff I'll go through and use Citadel. Like you can see here, like on my Fire Raptor gunship, I started doing like some of the engines and stuff, and just under here it's black, and that's just Abaddon black. That's the kind of stuff I'll use. That's what I'll sort of use Citadel paints for. The rest of the stuff I'll sort of be going for MiG. But Citadel, look, Citadel certainly does have its uses, 100%, especially for the actual little miniature stuff. But for some of the bigger stuff, I find that, you know, this is a bit better. So yeah, here we go. There's a little boy and his cat sitting there fishing next to a wrecked, I don't know, what is that, a Panzer 1 or some Panzer 2 or something? Panzer 3? Probably tells us somewhere. Maybe it told us up the front here. Yeah, anyway, doesn't really matter. But yeah, it goes on a little bit through there, and so yeah. Cool, everybody. So that's that diorama project. And there are other books in the range. I'll see if I can get hold of these. You got one on doing infantry, which will actually be really, really good. It relates to Warhammer really well. Then you've got stuff like sceneries, and then you've got, you know, the actual tanks itself, and this is looks like it's actually doing rubbles and debris and things like that, which is pretty cool. So you can see there you've got the bricks smashing. So I'm going to try to get a hold of that and share it with you guys on the channel. And yeah, so look, that's it for this video, everybody. Please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Share if you can, share this around if you know, think that people find these references helpful. And look, if you like this video, let me know in the comments. And yeah, really just wanted to do this one, and it's something that I've been wanting to do for a while. And for any of you subscribers or awesome people who are wanting to take it up another level, that's what this video is for, guys and girls and people, and this video is for you.